Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. I am your host, Neil Horowitz. You can find me on Twitter at NJH287, also on LinkedIn where I post more content, the website, as always, dsmsports.net, and get the podcast on whichever podcast platform is your favorite, including YouTube now, if YouTube is your preferred podcast area to listen to. Really cool show for you guys today. I really enjoyed this conversation, getting geeked out in the social media and sports space. My guest on the podcast today is Aaron Eisman. He is the founder and CEO of Eisman Digital Consulting, works with a ton of clients in the sports space and beyond. We also talk a lot about his background with lots of cool stops, including Turner Sports, Bleacher Report, NFL Network. Just really good conversation coming up for you where we go into really the weeds of how he develops strategy, the lessons behind it, the insights into it, how you connect goals to execution, to analytics, and the cycle and the flywheel around. We also talk a lot about his time at Bleacher, at Turner, at NFL Network, and some of the lessons he took from those places where they just do an incredible job on social media, course, especially Bleacher Report, where he spent a good amount of time about really what their special sauce is kind of, and what it was years ago, and what continues to help Bleacher Report stand out in the social feeds today. So stick around. Here's a tremendous conversation with Aaron Eisman of Eisman Digital Consulting. Back with today's guest, and I'm so excited to be talking to him. I know we're going to have a great conversation ahead. My guest on the podcast today is Aaron Eisman. He is the founder and CEO of Eisman Digital Consulting. Welcome to the podcast today, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Neil. I really appreciate it, and really excited to get to talk today to you.
You have such a great background. You're doing really cool stuff with Eisman Digital Consulting, doing your own thing, which I'm so admiring of. But also writing a book. You just have so much to offer. But before we get into the meat of our discussion today, Aaron, tell us about you. Tell us about your background, your stops along the way, what you're doing today, and any tips for folks that want to try to do what you do.
Yeah. So, a little about me. I'm from Los Angeles. Grew up more Dodgers, not Lakers, but Clippers, and I didn't really watch much hockey, and actually was more of a Broncos fan than any other California team because John Elway and his blonde hair, and that was my first football game in the late '90s was watching him play, and so grew up a big sports fan. That's how my dad, my brother, and I bonded over growing up, and I'd read the LA Times sports section. So I thought one day I'd go to journalism school, become a sports writer for the LA Times. That was the dream and goal. Things changed from 2009 to 2013 when I went to college and started to become more digitally friendly, do blogging, podcasting, or instead it wasn't podcasting, it was more like online radio. And it was sports writing was still there, but it was shorter writing and writing for tweets and less characters, writing for captions on Facebook, all that stuff for personal myself. And then when I came out of college, I spent my next 3 jobs, and in total, I've spent 11 years in sports social media. Starting this year, be 11 years. But I spent time at Turner Sports for a year. Was part of their first social media team. Then I went to Bleacher Report for 3 years and helped run social media for them. And then I moved back home to Los Angeles, worked for the NFL and helped run NFL Network social media. And then currently today, last 4.5 years, I've been running my own social media agency, mainly athletes and sports agencies I've been helping. But ultimately, we do random projects. We have sports tech startups, apps. I've worked with a lawyer too. I've worked with a former dog TV star. I mean, we've had some cool projects, and it's just it's been fun, and I'm excited to share more of today.
Yeah, it's always cool to catch up with you and hear about the different clients that you're working with and projects you're working on with Eisman Digital Consulting. But before we get to meet, give us an idea of kind of. It sounds like you were just a storyteller from day one, and that really is like what it comes down to. Is yes, you can write articles, or you can write tweets, or you can write Facebook posts, or you can develop video boards and the way you tell stories. And so I guess like. What would you say the foundation has been early on in your career that's really stuck with you? Like, is that really the ability to tell a story, to frame things around objectives and goals, to drive engagement? Like, what kind of form the key principles of your career that sticks with you today?
Yeah, I think early on, in social media, 2014, 2015, when I was getting out of college and starting my career as the part of Turner Sports, it was just, let's get content out there. Let's get things that is cool that we were doing at NBA on TNT, NBA TV, March Madness. I launched PGA social, PGA Instagram for them, and like I did some cool things there, but it was very much what I did there was there like there's this quote that I have in my book from my mentor at Turner Sports, Morgan Dewan, and
Mhm.
she said content was dripping off the walls, and we just needed people that were endemic to the space. I think is what she said.
Yeah.
And it was just cool because it was just like, yeah, me and eight other recent college graduates all came in there. We're all 22, 21, 22, 23,
Mhm.
and we all helped contribute to like thousands, if not billions of video views, new followers, all that stuff for those brands that I mentioned. And it was just about pushing out content and having fun with it. And then it slowly turns into a competition aspect. When I was a Bleach Report, it was more let's competitive, let's beat out ESPN and Barstool Sports and all these other brands. And how do we do that? We do it by hiring good talent in house and like creating the best content, going viral, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And that was cool to do that there. And then NFL Network, it was like, let's be complimentary to the NFL. Let's still promote the NFL Network and have fun with it. But us also, we're under the shield and we'll be conservative in ways. We can't make fun of the refs or
Right.
Roger Goodell or this or that. That was a no-no. But we can still have fun with Kay Adams when she was on.
Mhm.
The show we do like segments with her on social media. We would do Deion Sanders had his own show for like a season, which was fun to
Yeah.
riff of and do stuff there. But it was more just an engagement play. But yeah, throughout the years, it was more about like let's push up good content because content is king to me. And Bill Gates said that in the mid '90s. Wrote an essay about it that I just love. And then later on, it's chosen about analytics and getting the right numbers. And lately, it's been like influencers and content creators. Like that wasn't a thing to me until at least 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
Um, and now it's a big, big deal. So that the power of the influencer, the power of the authenticity of the person or whoever's running the account and the voice is what's big now these days.
Yeah, I feel like we almost went through a mini history of social and sports there. And hey, you should write a book. I mean, hey, you already have. No,
Exactly.
you and me are kind of part of the old pack here of SM Sports.
Yeah.
We can remember there
Yeah.
was a day when organic reach was actually a thing. Like you could reach, I think it was like I remember seeing an average benchmark like I forget what year it was, where it was like 16% was the average like organic reach on Facebook pages, and now it's like maybe you can get like 0.16%, maybe.
Right, exactly.
Well, think about
Engagement
that.
rate is different. Engagement rate, I think, was a cool metric back then. I think it still is a cool metric. It's like, yeah, I get 20% engagement rate on an NBA on TNT post, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or any other platform. Instagram started to become more of a thing in 2015 for us, but it was yeah, I mean these different metrics and KPIs always change and differ, but the competition has only grown up with the more accounts that have built up and the more random, ness of an account that can just go viral. That's not a main like big media staple or
Yeah.
big account. It's like these like smaller accounts these days that can go from 0 to 200,000 followers very quick because they just post good content. And that just didn't happen back then. It was always you have to be a name brand in 2014 to 2016, 2017
Hmm.
to like have a good presence. And things change over time, obviously.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like now you bring that up in that framing. Like when social media came about, what it initially did was it lowered or almost eliminated the barrier to entry that previously you had to have a station on TV, you had to have a station on the radio. There was these barriers to distribution. Then social media was like, hey, or in the internet in general, but certainly social media is saying anyone can reach you now. And so it was a little bit more like, okay, well, we're Turner, we're NFL, we can produce better content than you can. And now, I mean, especially now
Exactly.
with generative AI and all that, it's like the ability to produce quality content, or at least that looks quality, is getting it's becoming more commoditized to some degree. And now it's like who can be the most clever, who can be the fastest, and so
Right.
to see that
Right.
how that
Exactly.
has.
That's what it was.
And so with Bleacher, I think we look back on Bleacher and Turner as well as that to an extent of just like they almost invented sports virality, or like they created this lane that we didn't know it even existed. And
Yeah.
so I guess like you talked about just putting out content, and back in the day, like just putting out a lot of content was a key strategy because it wasn't as competitive. But as people got better and better, it did become more competitive. So what were some of the like what was I don't want to say secret sauce, but sort of like what was the
Yeah.
key to Bleacher just cutting through the noise? And when ESPN and Bleacher had or others, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, whatever you want to call it, Yahoo Sports, were all approaching the same story or watching the same game, and yet Bleacher's content would push through or would resonate more with the social media audience. Like, what was some of those key principles at play, or like the things that you guys did that Bleacher did better than your traditional media outlets?
Yeah, no, I think it was this mixture of quantity versus quality aspect. Early on in Twitter days, before like the when you couldn't have as much like characters, and when you had like maybe or not you could put a video or photo in. I don't know when things changed, but like when that changed, things changed very quickly, and a lot of it was the quantity aspect was let's get breaking news up before ESPN or
Mhm.
before or we got a scoop, let's get it out there before anyone else hits it. Like if it's a random reporter, it's be as quick as possible. I mean, I remember like the day that Kevin Durant did the whole Players Tribune thing, saying
Yeah,
he's going to the Warriors. That was on July 4th. And there was only like 10 people working at the Bleacher Report office in New York City at the day. And I was the one controlling social media, and I had to read the article and say, okay, he's going to the Warriors. Let me just tweet out that he's going to the Warriors
yeah,
because Tribune didn't. They said read the article because they
right.
wanted the site views,
Like the
which I
hashtag save your clicks.
personally, I still would think is stupid. Yeah, exactly. Like they wanted to like go to the page, and then everyone Bleacher Report was one of the first ones to tweet out like that because I wanted to be competitive, and I said to my like bosses, I was like, let's go with it quick before ESPN and other people get a hold of this news. And so that's what we did. But the quality, like breaking news, had to be quicker than everyone else. We had to beat out all the competitors. The
Mhm.
quality play, which was what Bleacher Report was known for, is they used to have this term, and I haven't talked about this in a while. They call this there was social programming team and social moments team. Social programming team was what I was on for most of my career at Bleacher Report, just constantly getting out news articles from Bleacher Report, promoting the podcast that we're on, doing things of that nature, and then posting some paid social and other things that people would create. But the social moments team was the viral meme team. I guess you could say
Yeah,
like it was a team of about like 10 people, 12 people that like literally sit in a room a couple times a week, and they would just think of like viral moments, or they would create an idea before it happened. Like if Cubs are going to win the World Series, what are we going to do social media wise to make it look really exciting and dope? So they were they was had this phrase like, and I don't know if these guys, I could always mention them and tell them to be on your podcast, but they called it going vi, and going vi is going viral. It was just shortened down, and so some of them would be like, oh, did you see me the other day, like going vi, like they were competitive with each other, these guys,
yeah,
and a few women, and they would go against each other and it'd be like, oh, my idea like went vi the other day, like it on like a
yeah,
Tuesday, like and then my idea is like doing really well, or my idea stunk, and they would not make fun of the person, but they would say, oh, we thought it was going to go viral, but it didn't. So it was this kind of this. We were in our own lane. We like some guy said to me, and for my book is like, who was part of that team. It's like we were playing chess, and we were always steps ahead of the competition.
yeah.
We were always like getting ready to do checkmate while they were just starting their chessboard. So we already knew the game plan of what needed to go viral, and what needed to make Bleacher Report what it is today. And I think we did a good. I think we and a big team. I mean, it's not just me. It's like 10, 15 other people
Mhm.
that put it together and like put out some great content. And um, they've reaped the rewards to these days, and they've probably made millions off of social media
Oh
because of
yeah,
what we built in the mid 2010s. So I'm
yeah. I mean,
appreciative.
I'm having like memories now, like the Team Stream app, and like all
Yeah,
these old school memories of how Bleacher really did like own digital and not just social early on. And I think even looking at Bleacher today, one thing that stands out to me is, and I don't know if this is like something that everyone notices or just me, that when a big moment happens, they like have the creative ready, but it's kind of like it's evergreen. It's somewhat evergreen creative. Like
right,
they have a half dozen really good like Luka Doncic graphics or Mo Salah graphics, and then it's
right.
not. It won't have the final score, and it won't have like his stat line on it because they're not like tweaking it in real time for that purpose. But they have these
Mm.
these really cool creative graphics already ready to go. And so like, hey, while the others of the world, the not just ESPNs, but the others of the world are actually trying to. Oh, I need to add the opponent's logo. I need to add the exact points he had. I need to add the like the goal the
Right,
goal
right,
time
right.
score.
Be very
It's just like,
specific
oh
with it.
no, we got this really sick comic book looking graphic of Luca. Like we're gonna put it out because it's already ready, and I think it's really inspirational to
Exactly.
have like sort of this more the stuff that's already in the can ready to go that you can use over time. And it's just super interesting to me to see that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's what it was, is constantly being willing to think ahead of the competition, think different than the competition, think more creatively than the competition, because that's how it was. And nowadays it's more than just you're competing against you're competing against sports media companies as the Bleacher Report is. You're competing against like the attention habits, the consumption habits of the audience, which is like you're competing against
Yeah.
every account that is like on everyone's scrolling, and this kind of idea of how to stop the scroll. It's like got to create like really high-end viral content. And back then it was just like we wanted to beat out these other sports media companies, and it was very, very competitive as sports are. And so yeah, I mean these days it's just let's come up with the best types of content, let's get the best access to the best athletes, and let's be authentic and build a community around social media. Those are kind of the concepts these days. That's
Mhm.
changed from my time in the 2010s, early mid 2010s to what it is today.
Yeah, I want to use your lens of not just working with the diverse clients you work with for Eisman Digital Consulting, but also your background as well of thinking about like the reactive versus we're going to create something. Like I, if you're at BR, like you can try to, hey, there's a meme going that's trending right now, or there's a story that's really popping right now, or there like we can kind of create the framing, create the story. We can create gridiron heights and start to and come up with memes ourselves to some degree.
Yeah.
Like when you're thinking about, again, whether it's a small or a medium-sized team that you're working with or a new client or just in general, is like, does it depend on the audience, the brand, the platform of like, hey, we need to be ready to react to what's popping and go into a meme or go into a trend versus yeah, that's a losing battle, or like we don't have the resource to do that, or it's not the best way to go about it.
Mhm.
Let's create our own trends. Let's create our own viral content, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. When I was at Bleacher Report, I got in this idea of proactive versus reactive. The
Mhm.
proactive content is the ones that you're evergreen. It's like you could think of the idea on a Monday, it comes out on a Wednesday or Friday, and you prepared that graphic or that video or that motion effects or that animation or that cartoon in advance,
Mhm.
depending on who's on your staff to build that out, that piece of content out. Um, and then the reactive stuff is like the Dodgers win the World Series in 2020, or this trade happens. Shohei Ohtani. I keep going on Dodgers rants, but like that type of stuff happens. You've got to be reactive to the news. If you don't know the news is going to happen, which most people didn't know the news because Shohei Ohtani posts a Dodgers logo on his Instagram.
Right.
Kind of blurred a little bit. I think people are saying are not the best quality. Um, you know, how do you be reactive to that? Okay, this just happened. We have 10 different jersey swaps ready to go, like of the 10 different teams that were interested in Shohei Ohtani. So that was already pre-made, I mean, that was what it was about at Bleach Report. Is like we had these jersey swaps made, or these face swaps, or these other types of swaps made before the
Right.
competition. We knew that if this happened, we were ready to push out a piece of viral content because we had it prepared in advance. So proactive versus reactive, a news story happens, we're going to react very quickly to it. And what I learned at Bleach Report, which might be a good thing to say on this, was there's different waves of content. Kevin Durant, breaking news, going to the Warriors is wave one. We just tweeted out with a photo. Wave two might be a video of him like leaving and leaving his old team, saying goodbye, like a funny like little video. And then wave three or four might just be consider more content off of that. So people need to think in waves. And if they don't have the team of like a Bleacher Report size, you could create like a small time team that can do a bunch of Swiss Army knives, is what I call them, like people that they can post, they can be a community manager, they
Mhm.
can create graphic designs or videos, they can do analytics. If you get a couple of those on your team, one to three of those that can do multiple things, or a specialist or two that can do graphic design really well or video editing really well, then it really makes a difference into your team. So whether you have a one-person team, three-person team, or 25-person team like we had at Bleacher Report, it all just depends on how to use your resources to best execute content and how do you think proactively and reactively so that you're constantly staying on top of the trends. You're far and beyond past your competition or other people, and you're thinking of ideas, creating ideas, and executing ideas that are going to make a difference to your audience and hopefully grow your following at the end of the day because that's what a lot of people are trying to do. But there's other KPIs and metrics that we can go into that are both vanity but both exciting for people to just appease the bosses above them that they can hit those. So yeah, I mean ultimately, when you think proactive or reactively, evergreen, breaking news, any of these other creative metrics and things that you think of in your head about how the content should be or what it should be, then you're going to really advance as a social media team and just think ahead of the curve
Yeah.
or be
No,
ahead of the curve.
I like the notion of like a wave of content, especially because like early on in my career, when I was on the team side, I realized, not that it was surprising, that very rarely are we going to break the news. Like someone's going to get that trade before us because we have to wait till it's official and the league has signed off on it, and
Yeah,
and it's
right.
like no one's going to first learn of the free agent signing generally by your official team account. Or same idea even with like a sports
Right.
outlet. Like they're gonna like, whoa, Shams is gonna tweet it first. The Sheriff is gonna get it out there first, and then it's like, okay, how do we do this differently? Or like, do we like
Mhm.
you think about
Right.
it of like what is our lane, or what can we add to the conversation, or what can we do different? Like, what like proprietary value can we provide that they're not getting from just the information? Because information it's very ephemeral. Like you get it's out there, and then everyone tries to come up with the most creative spin on it to some degree. So when you're thinking about of like that framing of like, is it just we need to be first and that's the way we win, or we need to do something that is totally different than what others are doing? Like I look at even like how
Yeah,
Yahoo
that's what it was.
like during a game even or when news breaks, how a Yahoo treats it versus how a CBS Sports treats it versus how a Bleacher
Mhm.
Report treats it.
Right.
And do you think in those terms of we need to be very different, or we need to be something that people the audience can't get from others? Do we need to try to get content that they can't get from others or come up with an angle?
Right.
But what's that way that you can kind of break through the noise so that you're not just the 25th person that is, tweeting that same highlight of that same news scoop that everyone else is?
Yeah, I know. I think we at Blue Report, a lot of people aren't there anymore, but they were there for a couple of years. Was this idea of having creative thinkers on the team that could think of better ideas than every other media outlet out there? That could and that's one of the reasons why Turner Sports acquired Bleacher Report in 2012 was they knew it was like young and hip, and it was less of the TV aspect, more of the online blogging and posting aspect. And they saw which direction they wanted to put money in. And Turner Sports gave them money to build out a social media team that would be 20 plus people that could handle a lot of funny stuff and post a lot of cool things.
Mhm.
And that's not cheap, to build out a 20 plus person team. That's millions of dollars, that you put investing towards people, towards infrastructure, towards going to games, towards everything that needs to happen to be successful with it. So, yeah, I think it's a mixture of let's get the news out before everyone else, and let's be correct about it. Let's make sure the name is spelled correctly,
Mhm.
the image used is the right player, XYZ, all that stuff. Let's be accurate with it and correct, but let's get it out before everyone else. And then the other side of it, the more important side is let's be more creative than everyone else. Get that more viral idea that goes out before other people. And you do that by thinking 10 steps ahead of the competition. Like, what are we doing? The news, like there's going to be a NBA trade deadline. How are we thinking differently, meme wise, or funny graphics or this or that, like jersey swaps before other people are? And how do we have people on the staff to execute very quickly on a high-end scale, whether it's reactive news, like something, just happens, let's get it out, or whether it's like the proactive stuff that you can think of days in advance that you're just going to be ready for XYZ news to potentially happen, the Shohei Ohtani news or other things like that. So it's and then it's just like have fun with it. It's free to post on social media. Yeah, it's fun to post.
Mhm.
Have fun with it. I mean, don't screw up and get your bosses angry with you at the end of the day. But enjoy that, like you can push out good content, and sometimes it hits and sometimes it flops, and everyone thinks that everything went viral for Bleach Sport from 2015 to 2018, 2019, but not everything did. Sometimes they spent, to be honest, sometimes they spent um, hours and hours on an idea and they thought it was going to go viral, the Social Moments team, and it didn't go viral. And sometimes they thought of something in an hour and created it, and it did go viral. So you just never know. Honestly, you can put money and budget towards different things, and you just don't know how the audience reacts. Sometimes there's a method towards what the audience likes and will like, but sometimes there's this method of, the audience won't like everything you push out, but you got to keep consistent with it, keep creating good ideas so that you can stand out from the competition, whether it's you competing with other sports media outlets, or you just competing with random, people that have these accounts that are, sitting in their mom's basements, as we would like to say, and they just tweet out or post good things. So it happens either way, but yeah, it's all about connecting to the audience these days. It's not about posting as much what you like. I mean, posting what you like is important, but at the end of the day, you're posting towards the audience and you want to grow your audience. And so you got to attack your audience by creative ideas, by breaking news, by good article and content. So all that stuff is very important and relevant to how a sports media outlet thinks versus or a team thinks before a regular account on the street thinks.
Yeah, and I want to like definitely broaden the lens to teams you may have worked with and through Eisman Digital Consulting, through just your own research in general, through for the book and all that of that notion of like our fans are do we need to provide something that is different to our fans that they're getting elsewhere, or we need, or even those that don't have the resources of a Turner of an NFL that need to pick and choose like that where they take their swings, where they allocate their resources and even what audiences they're going after, because yeah, you want to reach everybody that's a potential fan, of course, but it's not always that black and white, or we can't always
Yeah.
serve every platform. So as you think about like working with a new client, even for Eisman Consulting, like is it really like what are those key questions and things that you have to be able to hone in on to determine the best course of action from a strategy perspective, as well as the best allocation of resources?
Right, right. Well, I'll go before I go to Eisman Digital. I think the perfect answer to the question is about the NFL and how they treated things. I was there from 2018 to 2019, like a year and a half, and what we traded things was differently in house. Like the NFL had a different voice and viewpoint, their accounts and how big the team was versus the check down. The check down started, I think, 2018 to 2019,
Yeah.
and the check down was to be funny and cool and hip. And it was, there's two guys, Ben Gallagher and Grady Rains, and they just did a good job of like riffing off fun things without making fun of the wrong people, I guess, in the NFL. But then NFL Network, like their audience was more the Gen Zs, like young millennials. And then NFL Network knew that the audience off of like what I was doing on NFL Network was typically going to be a little bit older audience because the Gen Zs just love getting their content off social media versus the like millennials to later millennials, the baby boomers, those people don't mind watching TV and for an hour,
Right.
2 hours, versus the Gen Zs can only watch 2 minutes at a time, sometimes on their phone, and they watch another 2 minutes or another 30 seconds or whatever it is. But yeah, how I deal with, I've worked with teams in the past, I've worked with athletes and other people, and ultimately it's just, like I said, it's you. There's to me, there's five pillars of social media success, and to me, it's branding, strategy, content, posting slash community management, as well as analytics. There's paid social and influence relations as well, but to me, those have always been the core of what makes an account good these days. And so, what I mean is strategy is going to be important. Building, like, if it takes me a week or 2 weeks to build a strategy for an athlete or for a sports agency or for a team or a league or anybody that we work with over my 4.5 years of doing this, it's strategy could take time, but it's good founding, and like branding and strategy are good building blocks, a good foundation for an account, like to build the pyramid out. Then content's one of the heavier points, and like if the strategy is building out the right content, then the content should hit. And if the content should hit, then the numbers should prove it. And the numbers don't lie, so the analytics should tell you. I always used to say, content is king, which is what Bill Gates wrote about, and analytics are queen, which is just as important. The numbers tell a story. I think there's that show on ESPN, Numbers Never Lie or Numbers Don't Lie, whatever it was. So there's this idea that you know how strategy, content, analytics all play well together, even to this day, and it did a long time ago as well. Was the strategy is important to build the building blocks for working with any client that I work with today, and the branding side. Then it's what the content should look like and how it feels, what types of content is, what content buckets we're hitting off of. And then it's the analytics. If the content is hitting and the audience is growing or the audience is engaging with it, then the analytics should show that. And then the analytics should reaffirm or adjust the overall strategy. So it kind of works in a cycle almost between
Yeah.
those three aspects. And but yeah, strategy is everything for people. And I can gain clients, lose clients based off of if the strategy is actually working and leading to the KPIs that the client needs.
No, I like that a lot, and I think the order of operations or whatever how you want to phrase it is important there. I think, and even whether it's you working with a client or a social media manager who's talking to their boss, whatever it might be, it's like sometimes the temptation can sometimes be just go the other way around, and like I want to hit these numbers, and then the strategy kind of is like almost or how we get there is not as important as hitting the numbers. We want to
Right.
increase our engagement 500%. We want to be the number one team in the league. We want, and like, there's different ways to get those numbers. This is like a topic we cover on this podcast a lot because it's near and dear to my heart. But like, is that something that you need to, or is that an education piece that needs to happen with whether it's with your clients or again with that social media manager might be listening of saying like yes, like the numbers have to tie to the strategy. It can't be you can't have just focus on the numbers only. Like, and that may affect your ability to hit the highest number necessarily. Like you may not be able to get 1,000% engagement growth because
Mhm.
it's more
Right.
important to get the highest engagement growth you can while adhering to this strategy, while going toward these objectives. So how do you sort of parse through and make sure that you set expectations appropriately where it's like, yeah, we can go viral all day, but it may not be the way that we want to go viral because we have
Right.
goals, brand that we want to establish.
Yeah, the strategy is created based upon the goals of the organization. I've had clients that tell me, "Hey, we want more followers on these accounts. Hey, we want more website traffic or more app downloads or more, um, merch sales or more, other metrics, better engagement rate than we have before, or better growth rate than we currently have, and more followers, anything of that nature. Like people want different things to help grow their social media account or grow other goals they have. So how does that how do we get there is through you want to figure out the goals of the person or the client you're working with. Then you figure out the strategy of how to get to those goals. And some of it's not overnight, some of it happens. I mean, I have one of my biggest clients right now is a golf trading app, and they more care about the process of what the content looks like. If it
Mhm.
takes time for us to create the great content, it'll take time. But we don't need to push out a great piece of post every day because sometimes it leads to more followers, sometimes it doesn't, and we're accepting of that. But then I have other accounts that say we just want to tweet out like dope memes and gifs and like get our following up very quickly, and that's okay too because that's what they want, and I can make recommendations all I want, but it's what the client wants and needs and hopes that they can get. Whether there's a 30 to 30-year-old running the organization's social media marketing. There's a 50-year-old. They all have different opinions on what they want and what metrics and KPIs to hit, and also what other things to explore. So we do our best at Eisman Digital to hit the goals that our clients are hoping for. And if it doesn't work out after 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is on their contract, we could part ways, and that's okay too. But at the end of the day, we'll do our best to figure out what your goals are, how to get the strategy there, and how to post the best content, get the best results
Yeah.
analytics wise. And if we can get all that done, then we'll have clients longer term. We've had clients for 3 months, 6 months, and we had clients for 1 to 2 years and longer. So it all just depends on the person, but typically or the client, but typically we just try to post good content, try to get the client excited about what we're posting, and do more and more of it. And if we can do that, or if we need to pivot, make changes, we can make changes as a social media team that I have with me, and just be prepared for anything that the client asks for. Because at the end of the day, the client's paying you. The client asks for this. The client asks for that. You got to hear what the client has to say, or else they're on to another social media agency that they'd rather work with. So it happens, but ultimately, I think we've done a good job. We worked with over 40 clients in 4.5 years, and we because of that, we've learned to work with it's different working with different people, working with different goals and objectives, and personalities and all kinds of things. And that's where you best you best like get to understand what not just the client needs, but what's the client's following needs. And it's a different if it's different for every client sometimes. So we gotta figure that out early on when working with a client.
And what's like kind of the best way to navigate the zero sum like nature of it? Being like, hey, well, if given the resources that you give are giving us, whether it's budget, people, capabilities, wants and needs, we can accomplish X, Y, and Z. But if we have this much more, then we can do A, B, and C. But if we have this much less, then we can do we can't maybe do X, Y, and Z, but we can do X and Y. So like, is there like different scenarios based on how much you're willing to invest in it, and this applies, I think, to not just yourself as a consultant, an agency, but also someone that's working with a team and talking to their bosses about getting budget, getting head count, etc.
Right. Right. No, exactly. I think, the more you're willing to spend, I mean, it's both ways, in-house. I would if it depends on the budget, how I would build out a team. If I can only hire one person, I want a Swiss Army knife. I want someone that can do analytics, graphic design, video edits, posting, like has all that skill set. If I have a 3 to 5 person team, I want just a couple specialists and then someone that can really run the show.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a 5 to 20 person team, it's like a lot of specialists, a lot of people that post, some analytics people, like different specialists around the company that can really be on top of their game. But yeah, I think that's how I would think is typically is and then if you're a client, it's like the client differs client by client. What they wanted differs, what the types of content they're looking for differs. So you should really get in the mindset of what the client wants and needs and put it together. And some clients are that I've worked with over the years are hands off and they say, post what you want, have fun with it, enjoy it. Like give me the analytics once a month, twice a month. And then some are really hands on, some hands on in a good way, some hands on in a bad way. Microman, there's the difference between hands on in a good way where they're being productive, they're being helpful, they're telling us what's working, what's not working for them, and they're being very open and honest and transparent with us. And then there's the people that are micromanagers that are like way too hands-on. They think they know what they're doing and they have this idea for their brand. And of course, this is their brand, this is their baby, whatever it is, we can listen to them, but they should also put some trust in us. I've been doing this for 11 years. I have people on my team that have been doing this for 3 to 5 years for big brands. And so ultimately, it's understanding the client, but also understand that client understanding you as a team and understanding what you need to be pushing out content wise that can resonate with the audience over time. So yeah, whether you have to build that, it depends on the budget. Our the reason why I created my agency was I don't want to charge people 10, 20,000 a month. I don't think it's necessary to
Mm-hmm.
build out a good social media team for those prices. I think you could do it with 1 to 5 thousand a month, hire us, hire either a couple, is your budget to hire 3 to 5 people in house? Maybe you have a budget for that. If you're battling as a startup that can I spend 80,000 a year on one social media employee, or do I use Eisman Digital more cost effective for us and a bigger team? Maybe go that route. So it depends what route the company wants to take or my client wants to take, depending on their budget. But you get different bang for your buck mentality, whether you hire a social media coordinator a couple of years out of college, or you hire a veteran that's been in the game for 5, 10 years in-house that can build out your social media team. So it all depends on the situation, the scenario, but ultimately, you just got to be the most effective with your budget and hope your budget works out. And you hope you hire the right people so you can get the best results, whether that's in-house or out of house.
How are we starting to see social insight and strategy like permeate the rest of the organization, or vice versa? Like when you're thinking about, hey, like, well, like it would be good to know what is resonating during your game presentation, or what outdoor ads are also working, or what videos are people playing a lot on your website, or other way around too, of like, hey, this stuff is really popular on organic social. Let's make sure that we use this in our pages. Let's try to integrate this with our radio ads, our TV ads. I mean, radio ads maybe not anymore. Well, radio's still around, but I think like, is it a little bit of like making sure the social team can learn from the other channels of the organization, other fan touch points, or a little bit of vice versa? I'm sure it's maybe a combination thereof. But like, how are we
Yeah.
starting to see that the insights that we have from all these data points and touch points on social really starting to become not just helping us create a better TikTok post, but helping us really talk to all of our fans better?
Right, right. No, I think that's a good point. I think there's all kinds of forms of marketing, and social media is very front facing of an organization or forward facing of an organization. And social media is what hopefully people connect to about that brand. You know, I'm not a I like Patagonia clothing, but I think their social media is dope. It's like great what they do. Or Nike is like amazing on social media because they have a great team that runs it in house, and stuff. And so I think what it's all leading towards is this idea of, you know, just pushing out good content, connecting to the audience, hopefully getting the KPIs and engagement you're hoping for. And ultimately, like if you're doing that as an organization, it's good. But like, yeah, I mean, different clients want different things, different bosses want different KPIs, different companies have different budgets, what they want to put towards social media. But yeah, there's different forms of marketing. Like social media is one of them, but you want to do a newsletter, or do you want to do ad placements on Google ad placements? Do you want to do paid social, or does your organic post that does well numbers wise deserve to be boosted and put money behind it?
Mhm.
And that stuff, and influencer marketing. There's just so many forms of marketing these days. When 5, 10 years ago, maybe probably more 10 years ago, it was marketing, like your general marketing people, your public relations people, and maybe you had one or two social media people 10 years ago.
Right.
And now it's completely changed into social media needs to be a beast for organizations. You need to hire more people to do social media than PR, or more people to do social media than other forms of marketing. You only need one newsletter guy, and you need one person that does PR these days, but you need like a 5-person social media team. So everyone allocates their budget differently based upon their objectives and KPIs, but um, ultimately, like it depends on you and your budget, and depends on what your objectives are and your KPIs to determine what you need to do and hiring the right people, whether it's in-house or hiring an agency like Eisman Digital. So it all depends on the person, the organization, their budget, what they want to spend in. You have to have the right people in those spots to know how to spend that money, allocate the budget, and where to allocate the budget to, so they can have the best results as well.
Yeah. A few minutes left here with Aaron Eisman, founder and CEO of Eisman Digital Consulting. Really enjoying this, but I want to pick your brain a little bit more on this. And I think it's something that can really resonate with a lot of anyone that's listening to this is what have you found to be effective in selling in a strategy? Like there might be sometimes where a client or a team or even a manager of someone at an organization says, hey, we really think there's an opportunity on TikTok, or we need to be crushing, or we need to get into, we need an influencer strategy. Like, are there times when you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. Here's how we're gonna execute it. Are other times where you're like, based on your goals, like maybe this is not the best way. Like, here's what I like. If I'm a social media director, social media manager, I'm trying to manage up to my VP of marketing or my CMO or whatever it might be, and saying, this is the strategy I think is best for us, and here's why. What are the best ways to really target that? Is like, here's the results we're going to get. Here's what other teams are doing that are similar to us, and look at how much they're crushing it. Or like, this is what worked for us. Like, what are some of those ways that can really sell in a strategy?
Yeah, I think like we talked about earlier, it's all about the goals. So if the goals are let's sell more merch, well, maybe Instagram shop, or sending people from Instagram from Instagram to your website store, that might be more advantageous than doing a tweet, that just original tweet that says go to my website for this, like to buy this, or like you I think people need to understand that social media is not easy, and it's never been easy. It's about building a platform specific strategy. So some of my clients want more followers. Okay, we can get you more followers on TikTok. We'll just push out tons of TikToks per day, per week, and we'll try to get you more followers, because that's what's the algorithm is hitting well on TikTok to get more followers. If you hit a couple of good home run videos. Instagram, it's constantly about quality, and like these days, and collaborations. If you want to grow an account these days, you need to collaborate with the right people, or pay the right people to collaborate with, and do the collaboration button, or have them repost on their Instagram story, or whatever it is, to get more followers. And the quality needs to be there of that piece of content as well, because what's going to get the consumer to stop the thumbnail, stop their thumb, and stop the scroll. Yeah, they call it stop the scroll, and like actually watching consumer content versus going to the next piece of content, because you have a limited amount of time to reach the audience. I mean, these days you might have 3 seconds, 5 seconds to connect to the audience on a piece of social media content, or else they're swiping or scrolling to the next piece of content. So you don't have much time to connect to the audience, and it needs to be good content very quickly. And I think that's important for people to know is like it's not easy to post on social media, but depending on the goals, then you figure out the strategy, and hopefully the strategy connects to the goals and gets you the results you're looking for. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But you ultimately got to be true to yourself and true to yourself as an agency or an agency owner, and just say we've done our best to help this client out. We've gotten them more followers, or we've gotten them more website traffic. We've done this or that for them. And we've used different platforms, different ways to connect to those goals that they're trying to attribute. But it depends. Are you B2B, B2C? Are you just want to hit the Gen Zs? Where do you want to hit them? Well, we're not hitting them on Facebook, so we're going to hit them on TikTok, Instagram.
Hmm.
Want to be a part of the NBA Twitter conversation? Let's go on Twitter. Let's be a part of that. Like it depends on what platforms you want to be in, what are your goals, and then how that all connects to each other so that you're best suited for how to really attack the audience and build out that strategy that really connects and engages the audience.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to be able to do it the right way, and it's sometimes people do it the right way, and some people do it the wrong way, and that's the difference between gaining a client and getting more clients that way, and losing clients left and right, based upon your execution. I came up with this acronym. One more thing, I came up with this acronym called ICE: ideate, create, and execute. And maybe I heard this before, and maybe I need to coin it, but like if you can have people in your team that can ideate and think of the right ideas, create that content itself, and then execute and post the content with the right voice and authenticity, and hopefully you have the engagement and the results you're looking for. But every organization is different. Every organization wants different things, and you base your strategy around those goals, and hopefully hit those goals, and everyone's happy at the end of the day as well.
A quick follow-up there. Are there goals that social media is good at executing against, and are there goals that are not as well suited for it? It's like, hey, if you want to do X, Y, and Z, if you want to build, like in some ways, is social media a a supporter of other goals, being like, we're going to build a great brand, and that way your Google ads or your Instagram ads are going to hit a lot better because our organic social is crushing it.
Mhm.
Or like we're going to create such a brand that when someone comes to is thinking about their Christmas shopping, they're going to want to go to you guys or whatever it might be. Like, are there things that where you're like, social media is not the best way to accomplish this? We can support this and lead to and
Mhm.
affect other channels. Are there? Is there some things where you're like, these goals, social media is really good at crushing these goals, not as good for these goals in some ways. Or like, what are some of the
Right.
nuances there that you've learned over your years?
Yeah, what I've learned is like, and I've learned this with the client recently was this idea of there's some goals social media can accomplish. We can grow followers, we can get some website traffic, we can get some merch sales, we can get some app downloads, but ultimately the product of whoever we're posting towards has to be good and has to connect to the audience.
Yeah.
I can send sorry, I could send like 10,000 people to a website, but if there's only five signups out of those 10,000 people, then it's not us not doing our job
Right.
because we're sending the 10,000 people over. It's your product that's just not resonating with the audience, we're connecting to the audience. And I've had people say to me, Aaron, you told me you were going to get me more people to watch our product or to
Versions,
or
yeah.
or to buy our product or to be a subscriber. And you know what I say to them? I say to them, like, we can do our best to send people to your website and do this, but we can't make them buy. We
Right.
that's on you or on the consumer itself, whether they connect to the thing. So, it's just tough, like to tell people that sometimes, but there's some KPIs and metrics that social media can hit very easily, and we can go after those growth metrics and stuff, and those engagement metrics and those impression metrics and all that stuff, reach metric, whatever you want to call it. But sometimes we can only accomplish so much on social media. It's got to be the product that has to sell. It's got to be the website that has to sell. The podcast even has to be good. For example, like a
Right.
social media can push people to the podcast, but if the podcast isn't good, they're not going to listen to more than one episode or more than 10
Totally.
minutes of that podcast. So hopefully we're having a good conversation now so we can get more people to listen to your podcast as well. So it all is relevant to each other, but we can do so much. Like Bleach Report can do so much to say go to Bleach Report website, but if the content on Bleach Report website is good or not good or whatever it is, then people aren't going to resonate the content or download the app or this or that. So content's got to be there with social media, but the product has to be there too, with whoever you're posting towards, so that
Yeah.
you're going to get more engaging followers and stuff.
I think that's definitely a smart way of looking at it. Like it's easy to say social media is our cure for everything, our panacea, and it can affect a lot of things, but it can't be your entire business. It can't solve every problem that your business has necessarily. One more quick thing
Exactly.
before we get to the
Exactly.
shareable stat, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. about like writing a book. I mean, it's really fucking cool that you did that. So I guess
Thank you.
first, just give me a synopsis of like how what is the process like of I want to write a book. Here's how I'm gonna go about it. What the process like of actually doing it, getting it published, getting it out there. Like, give me the synopsis, the story of how you go from idea to having a book out there that people are buying and reading.
Yeah, yeah. I think early on, maybe since I was like between 12 and 14, I wanted to write a book. I wanted to be a part of the LA Times. I wanted to do cool things with my career. I knew I wasn't going to be an athlete. I mean, I still play golf and have a 12 handicap, but like I'm not no Tiger Woods or any or Brooks Koepka or any of these guys, Jordan Spieth, whatever. And I will never be that good at golf, unless I have play every day and have training and exercise and put my life towards that goal. But I'm 32 and that's just not going to happen anymore. But but I think what I did with the book was one of my goals was write a book at some point in my life. And then a couple of years ago, my mom and I were writing down like goals of mine for by the time I'm 30 or 31, I forgot what it was. And one of the goals was write a book by 30. And and that's what I did. And it took 9 months and to fully complete from the first page, the first introduction, the title of the book till it was published and pushed out there into the world. It took 9 months. It's like having a baby, is writing
Yeah.
a book and putting it all together. It's not easy. Not everyone can do it, I think. And some people can write kids' books, some people can write a mystery book, some people can write whatever kinds of books. But I knew I had to pick a topic that I was really keen towards and I really love, and that's why I chose sports social media. Like I told you before this, there wasn't like a non-textbook that did talked about sports social media.
Right.
And I think I was like, if anyone's going to write it, don't have the imposter syndrome and just do it and just accomplish it. And that's what I did. And I wrote the book, and it was a lot of nights where I'm spending 30, 45 minutes an hour listening to some music and just pumping out content, pumping out words. And at the end of the day, then you have 145 pages, 45,000 words, and you got a book that can be sold on Amazon and elsewhere. And that's what happened to me. And luckily, I'll go back a little bit. I took a Georgetown University writing course with this guy, Eric Koster, and he was just good about like he would do these Zooms about like what you should be writing about, or how you should take your chapters, or how you should do research, how you should
Mhm.
interview people for your book, all this type of stuff. And we would get an editor alongside that paid class and would teach us how to like write the book the right way. And so that was really vital towards me being able to write the book. But at the end of the day, if you're not a good writer, or if you're not creative, or you're not like this or that, like you might not be able to be a good book writer. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's only a few people that can do it at a high level and write multiple books and be published multiple times and be in every airport that you can think of. Not everyone can be those types of people, but like
Right.
uh, ultimately, it's like I just want to have fun with it. I just want to do a book and accomplish something, and whether it's sold 5 copies or 500 copies or 5,000 copies, I don't care. As long as I can get it out there and say I accomplished one of my goals, and I'm proud of it.
Oh, yeah.
And luckily, I could say all that, which is nice.
Is it possible, or what's the mindset of like writing a book about social media and social media and sports in this case too, that can stand the test of time to some degree? I mean, social media
Yeah,
doesn't look the same as it
that's a
did
good
10 years
point.
ago, let alone 10 days ago, in some cases. So like, are there things that you try to focus on, or like, does it just happen? Is there an expiration date that's just kind of, just the nature of social media?
Yeah, there is in a certain extent, like the, you know, I like my book will definitely be in ways, people can still read about it because it's talking about ESPN social media in the early 2010s. It's talking about Bleacher Report disrupting social media in 2015s to 2018-ish. It's talking about House highlights and Omar Raja's story. It's athlete social media. There's certain things that are going to always be relevant in my book. But like my brother says, when's V2 coming out? When's version 2 coming out? Because
Yeah.
things do change in social media. And like I wrote this book 2 years ago, or over 2 years ago. And so things change. I mean, I didn't write much about TikTok 2.5 years ago, but now TikTok's one of the biggest things. I mean, literally, it was going to get banned from the US at some point, because the people
Right.
were anti TikTok, anti Asia, whatever, anti China, whatever it is, these politicians were. But I didn't write about that 2.5 years ago, and it's interesting to see how like things change and how I finished the book. And I won't give it away, but it was kind of like let's put our seatbelts on and see what things change and evolve because it's constantly going to do that. And you just got to be along for the ride. You can be one of the game changers in the industry, or you can watch the industry change itself and just be a part of the ride itself and be like cruising along. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it just all depends on what you want to do with that in the book, and hopefully there'll be a version two one day, or maybe I'll do something a different topic in sports social media. Maybe I'll do athlete social media, or I'll do paid social media. I'll do this type of social media, whatever it is. I can do a different version of it. But ultimately, yeah, some of my um, viewpoints and the stories will remain true in that book that people can't recreate unless they copy it and use some AI tool. I don't know,
Right.
but Chat GPT-esque. But like for the most part, I wrote the book. I accomplished it. I interviewed over 100 people. I
Wow.
talked to the right people, I think, in the industry, hopefully all the right people in the industry, and we put together a really good book, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud I accomplished that goal. And I'm already thinking about book two, and it might not even be social media related. So there's interesting avenues out there that I can take what happens next. But I enjoyed writing the book. I enjoyed putting it together, and I still enjoy getting emails and messages from people all around the world that said they read my book, and it's pretty cool to hear
So
and
cool.
say that to you.
So gratifying, so inspiring, and really good stuff. Check out the evolution of sports social media. You can find it on Amazon, anywhere. And Aaron, really good stuff here. But we're having some fun with you with our quick take segment. So stick around for that first episode of Shareable Stat coming up right now. Excellent chat with Aaron Eisman, founder and CEO of Eisman Digital Consulting. Could really just geek out on this stuff all day with him. He has a lot of good insights, stories, continues to learn from all his diverse clients that he has now with his agency, and has some really cool opportunities there where he works with younger people, as he mentioned, that have been in the professional space, and just really cool stuff to learn from him and what it's like to write a book as well, which is a really cool thing. And kudos to Aaron for accomplishing that. Still at a relatively young age, he had his goal and he set it and he accomplished it. But stick around because we're having some more fun with Aaron coming up in our quick hitting questions. But first episode, Shareable Stat. This episode Shareable Stat is about LinkedIn. We'll talk more about LinkedIn in the segment to come. But the Shareable Stat is that in the year 2024, it's estimated that LinkedIn's Gen Z users will grow approximately 14%. Now, if you've been around, you probably know that LinkedIn is kind of a growth platform. A lot more people started posting on LinkedIn, especially amidst the Elon Musk takeover of Twitter, and have been treating different ways. There's still a lot of good insights happening on LinkedIn every day. There are creators, influencers, newsletters you can get through LinkedIn, and apparently, according to this Shareable Stat, a growing number of Gen Z users, of young people that we always want to try to reach across platforms. And what can you do with it? Well, in the sports space, we haven't yet seen someone be truly innovative on LinkedIn. Yes, you've seen some teams take swings and misses over the years, and most are very active, whether it's posting jobs or trying to post some different types of content for the LinkedIn audience. We've seen some special offers over the years. I remember back when I was on the team side, we did sort of a business-focused special deal that included, I think it was golfing that we had. We worked with a golfing partner. Maybe there was a watch partner one time where we just try to unite that sort of more luxury brand, aspirational brand. But to go back to the main point, what can a team do? What can a league do? What can a sports brand do to really move the needle with LinkedIn? Take some chances, take some swings. Maybe you'll hit a home run. I don't know what that could be. It could mean really leveraging your sales reps, your group sales reps, your season ticket holder reps with content and helping them establish a presence across LinkedIn. It could mean treating your team, your organization like a B2B company almost, because that's ultimately what you are when you're trying to attract sponsors, like a B2B company, and doing case studies. Could you team up to do a case study of a sponsor's good experience and their good results from working with you to attract more leads that way, and also move some insight that way and drive some engagement that way? Or it could mean working with your creative team perhaps, and how can they showcase how they do what they do, or talking about strategy, talking about stuff that we talk about on this podcast. So still a lot of opportunity there. Of course, at the individual level, lots of people are crushing it in the greater sports space. Aaron Eisman being one of them, our guest today on the podcast today. But again, the episode Shareable Stat is that LinkedIn users will grow its Gen Z audience. So LinkedIn will grow its Gen Z audience by approximately 14% in the year 2024. So think about it, ponder it, talk about it, discuss it. But more importantly, stick around because you're going to have some more fun learning from and hearing some stories from Aaron Eisman of Eisman Digital Consulting. Back from this episode's Shareable Stat, and I'm joined once again by Aaron Eisman. He is the founder and CEO of Eisman Digital Consulting. Aaron, kick to ask your interview. Are you now ready for some quick takes?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm excited.
Good. All right, this is gonna be a fun one because you're old enough and I'm old enough to remember the Vine days. So tell me your favorite or most memorable Vine that you remember, whether it was produced by one of your employers or not. So what's a Vine that comes to mind if when you think back of those days?
Yeah, I think, and I hope I get this right, but the LeBron James kid, LeBron James,
Yeah,
it would loop and play over and over and over again, and that just got people stuck in their head. And I love that one. I mean, there's a couple other good ones where like a father is bringing a son his like first baseball bat, and they're crying. I think that was one of them that did really well. I think on Vine. But yeah, LeBron James one definitely probably number one. It always
that's an
always
awesome one.
reminds me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet you there's a lot of younger kids out there that don't even realize that originated on Vine and was not just some like
Yeah.
thing. That's awesome.
Exactly, exactly.
Number two, going back to your sports writing days, your journalism days. What was your favorite story you worked on writing for the Indiana Daily Student when you were a student there?
Yeah, no, I covered all kinds of teams for the 4 years. I mean, I covered the number one team in the country with Victor Oladipo and Cody Zeller and all the guys. And the
Man,
year before, we beat number one Kentucky on a buzzer beater in 2012. But honestly, the best story was working with the Olympic sports, the volleyball players, the
yeah.
field hockey players, the softball players, whatever it was. I had a great story on the field hockey player Mutsa Mutambwa, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. She won the Rhodes Scholarship,
Wow.
and this was the first time done in over 40 years in Indiana University history. And it was amazing that she won it. And her job was to fix the Zimbabwe economy. And I just thought it was like such a cool story to her for me to like talk about a small town, small village, a girl that came from in there and then like went to Indiana to play field hockey, wins the Rhodes Scholarship, like and like has an amazing career after that. So she's doing some great things even to this day. So it was cool to do that story.
That's a great one. I will not ask you about Indiana men's basketball this year. Well, they're on their way back,
Up and
hopefully.
down.
Number three for Aaron. Tell me the social media platform that sports organizations are kind of sleeping on right now, or something that's just underutilized. Like one you want to see a little more activity on.
Yeah, I think it's honestly going to be LinkedIn. I know that sounds like it's always been like a B2B platform, but it's turning into like a B2C kind of opportunity for like fans. I think there are going to be more influencers off of LinkedIn. I mean, like Malcolm Lemons, Andrew Petcash, like these, Adam White, these are good like names that I follow that
Yeah.
are like almost influencers on LinkedIn these days. And people really trust their writing and their opinion and their thought leadership. So I think the teams could think of that way too. I mean, not just posting jobs, but like let's do something fun that's LinkedIn job related, or let's like think of ideas that are LinkedIn
Yeah.
specific. I just think that's going to be cool for teams and professional outlets to see how they can translate like a good idea into LinkedIn because it's different than all the other platforms, but it could be unique in its own way. And I think you get great engagement off LinkedIn compared to, some of the other smaller like Facebook. I'd rather do LinkedIn than Facebook. I'd rather do LinkedIn than sometimes Twitter these days. So
Yeah.
I just love LinkedIn as a platform. It's really helped my business, and I think it's like the unsung hero right now of social media. I think people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, this is sort of tangential. I mean, we're seeing we obviously see athletes and teams work together to activate sponsorships, activate partnerships. I'm waiting to see like someone partner with. I mean, maybe it's already. I've seen a little bit of it, but I'm waiting to see like a team activate like an Adobe partnership. And here is our head of video, showing you how to create this effect in Adobe, and it's awesome.
Exactly.
Like
Good
I want
point.
to see that stuff happen. Like that would be cool.
Yeah. I would love to do partnerships. Yeah, like inside an organization, like yeah, like you said, an Adobe or a Google or a Microsoft says they want to put money behind a LinkedIn post or LinkedIn influencer. I think that's the way things are going to go. And maybe I'll be right about it, maybe I'll be wrong about it in the future, but we'll see. But I think ultimately LinkedIn will be a place for new influencers, new thought leaders, new people that CEOs that want to give out their impressions. And I do it myself. I try to do 3 or 4 posts a week, and some do hit and do well, and some don't do so well. But it's all in the nature of LinkedIn is just to push stuff out there, and the algorithm seems pretty good for a lot of people. And yeah, I love it. I've gotten plenty of clients off of it too. So shout out to LinkedIn.
Oh yeah. Good segue to our next question. Aaron, tell me the most challenging and or initially challenging, I guess, or most rewarding, like that challenging or rewarding client that you've worked with Eisman Digital Consulting so far in your tenure there, in your 4.5 years there.
Yeah, yeah, I think on the challenging side, I had a baseball agency. It was like a top 5 baseball agency in the world, and they were just a struggle to deal with. Like they didn't want to pay us what we're worth for the content we're creating for them. They weren't they were micromanaging us all the time. They were micromanaging little words we would put in a caption that they didn't like. They weren't letting us be hands on. I mean, they were being too hands on, like I talked about earlier in the podcast. They were just not letting us have creative freedom and let our creative wings fly high. And it just wasn't good. And then on the rewarding side, I worked with a NBA agency, life sports agency. Shout out to Todd Ramosar, and they represent Pascal Siakam, Kevon Looney, Thomas
Mhm.
Bryant, a bunch of other NBA guys and non-NBA players, professional basketball players. And we had them as a client for nearly 2 years, I think. And they were just great at being like hands off and like letting me do what I want to do as a
Mhm.
company and like letting us have fun with it and letting us talk to their players and all this stuff. When you allow people to show their creative freedom and to flex their muscles a little bit creatively, you have good results. If they're a creative person, you should have good results based
Yeah.
upon that. So yeah, I mean, there's I've had plenty of challenging clients, and I've more the good news, I've had more less challenging, more rewarding clients, which is nice.
Yeah, and then hopefully, ideally, some of the challenging clients become rewarding clients because they see the light and you're able to accomplish something together. That's really cool. All right,
Exactly.
where are we on? Number six for you, Aaron. Tell me the most viral post from your time with Bleacher Report or Turner. Like, what's that viral post that it's like that one just took off?
Right. I think it's a Vine, and this is actually the first chapter of my book. People can buy it on Amazon, read about it more. But it's a chapter called "Down Goes Shaq,"
Hmm.
and the caption was literally "Down Goes Shaq." It was literally Penny pushing Shaq into a Christmas tree. I
Yeah,
posted it everywhere, got it out there. We clipped it on Snappy TV. If anyone, old social
yeah.
media, people remember that. Clipped it on Snappy TV, posted it everywhere. It did millions and millions of Vine loops. I think I wish I can get the numbers on it today, but it probably did amazing in the millions. Facebook did really well.
Mhm.
I think that video got seen over 20 million times, at least, and it was just cool to just get to be there doing it. I mean, it was on a Christmassy day. I was working myself on NBA on TNT. It was the Jewish guy by the TV eating my Chinese food and watching this, and I didn't know he was getting pushed into a Christmas tree, but flipped it, posted everywhere, and it took off. And all I had to write was 3 words: "Down goes Shaq."
That is a classic one. I can see that video in my head right now. So I am one of the many millions that watched that video both
Awesome.
that day
Awesome.
and
Happy to
years
hear
ago.
that.
Number seven, Aaron, tell me the most memorable experience or learning at an internship in college.
Yeah, I had this one with the American Junior Golf Association, the AJGA. We travel around the country. I mean, maybe 200-300 bucks a month or whatever it was, like a little stipend. But we travel around the country. We would put on golf tournaments. I would do a little bit of social media, a little bit of PR, a little bit of helping out setting up the tournament, like putting down the posters of the sponsors and stuff around the golf course. So I did all of that, and it was just cool to like do different parts of an organization. And I think I still recommend people to do the AJGA, whether you're a sports fan or non-sports fan. It's a good way to get experiences to travel the country for a summer. And we
Yeah.
did 10 tournaments in 2, 3 months, I think it was. So it was phenomenal experience, phenomenal way to travel the country, and really good way to work, be a team building experience because you work with about 8, 9 other college interns as well. So I really loved it. I really loved it a lot.
Awesome. There are worse ways to spend a summer than going to golf courses all around the country. That's awesome. Number
Exactly. Just don't be in Missouri in the mid-August. I realized we had a tournament there. It was like 90 degrees and 80, 90% humidity.
ugh,
So don't want to do that again.
sticky and muggy, no fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
Number
exactly.
eight, I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to add to it. You don't know this is coming. Number eight's our food question. We're always asking food questions. So first, I know you're an LA boy originally. So tell me the
Yeah.
best meal to get in Los Angeles and where to get it. And then the bonus part of the question, because as I'm talking to you are in Vietnam. Tell me the best thing you've eaten in Vietnam as well.
Yeah. So The best thing is anything Roy Choi. If you know the chef at all, he does Korean Mexican food, which I literally used to. There was an app back in the day, and maybe there's a new app version of it. You could like follow food trucks around LA and
Hmm.
where they were going, and based upon their Twitter, based upon what they're tweeting, or they put themselves on the map. And there was always three Kogi food trucks or Koji food trucks, and you would find okay, one's on the west side in Venice today. One is in the Valley in Tarzana today. One's in South Bay. So in LA, you'd always go hunt them down and go find out which days and how many hours they were going to be at that spot because they couldn't be there all day because of parking permits and things like that nature. But it was just I would hunt that food down, and now he's got probably at least 6, 7 restaurants around the country. Kogi, Alibi Room, Chego. Still's got a food truck on Overland in LA. So yeah, I love that. And then for Vietnam, everyone thinks pho and banh mi or banh mi. We say it banh mi is like the go-to foods, and they are great for Vietnam. But there's a lot of good food that people don't try in the U.S. There's one called bun cha, which is literally like char-boiled pork with noodles, and it's just unbelievable, and fish sauce, unbelievable. Another one called cha ca, which is like a fish dish that's really good. But yeah, I mean. I think people, unless they come to Vietnam, they won't open up their minds to all kinds of Vietnamese cuisine, which is, I think it's one of the better cuisines I've ever had. So if there's not enough of it in LA, I think you see a lot of other diverse Asian communities as well. But I think I'd like to see more Vietnamese like soul food kind of stuff in LA and all parts around the US.
Hell yeah! Well, come back when you come back to SoCal. You and me will have to try to hunt something down. We get some good
Yeah.
Vietnamese food. That sounds great. All right, number nine. Tell me your favorite or most memorable, the one that had the most effect on you book. Besides the one you wrote, of course. Besides Evolution Sports Social Media, what's the favorite or most affecting book that you read in your life?
Yeah, number one, it's a one and two. One that really made me want to become a writer, and I told the writer this at the 2015 PGA Championship in Whistling Straits in Wisconsin. There's a book by John Feinstein called The Punch, and The Punch is all like about like a single incident between Rudy Tomjanovich and I think Kermit Washington maybe,
Mhm.
which a guy punched him on the court and like it like almost killed Rudy Tomjanovich, like so it's like a really interesting book about dynamics, about like what happened that day, all that stuff.
Wow.
And then I like this book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, and I
Yeah.
think it's just a great read. It's good motivational. You don't have to, I mean, it's like history stories about leaders and people who accomplished obstacles and like came through on the other side and like learned from it. So I think that it resonates today, and I think the Patriots even use that as one of their books for a lot of the athletes to read.
Yeah.
It's not too long, but it's the Ryan Holiday's turned into one of my favorite authors, as well as Malcolm Gladwell. Outliers is a third book that I would recommend.
Some great ones there. I've not read the Feinstein one. Maybe I'll check it out. But Ryan Holiday, Malcolm Gladwell, I've read everything they've written pretty much. That's some
Yeah, they're great.
last one for you, Aaron. This might be the hardest question on the entire podcast. Tell me what happens next, or like, will Indiana men's basketball make a Final Four, or will Indiana football win 10 games? Try to make it
Yeah,
somewhat tough here.
that's a very tough one. Honestly, I think just the way college basketball changes worse in a way than college football does with this whole transfer portal, this whole like going to the pros after one year. I think college football is in a better place. We just hired coach, I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Signati
Yeah, Chris Agnetti.
from James Madison, and he's a winner. He's won 103 games and lost 12 in his lifetime as a coach. And maybe you could say it's James Madison, so he can win a lot there, but like he's really like has gotten a lot of good transfers lately. And I would say in 3 years, Indiana will win 10 games. But you can't quote me on that, but we'll see what happens in 3 years. There's Michigan, Penn State, USC, and UCLA, and Ohio State to worry about. Wisconsin. It's a tough,
Right.
tough conference to be in.
Washington, Oregon too.
Washington, Oregon, yeah.
Are Hoosier fans rooting for or against? And this is right. We're talking before the national championship for college football, so you may listen to this afterwards. But are you guys rooting for, or are you guys rooting for Michael Penix, the transfer from Indiana? It's at Washington.
That's a good point. Yes, we are. I
Yeah,
am. I at least. And the coach, Kalen DeBoer, the
yeah.
head coach, was the
Former
offensive
OC.
coordinator at Indiana. So there's that tie. And then there's a guy. It's funny enough. There's a guy, Jack Tuttle, who's the backup quarterback for Michigan, who's who's like an Indiana player for 1 or 2 years. So like
Right.
people see him and they're like, this is really cool that we get this. But yeah, I think a lot of Indiana fans would root for Washington any day, especially with Michael Penix. I think Penix's draft stock has went through the roof. So I'm hoping
Oh
Washington wins
yeah.
this one.
Well, I'll tell you, given the Jack Tuttle connection and Michael Penix and Kellen DeBoer, you guys can claim it either way.
Right, right, exactly,
Whoever wins,
exactly,
you can have some claim to it. All right, Aaron, had a lot of fun
exactly.
with our quick takes. Now it's your chance to take over the podcast and tell us your social media all-star to follow. Just tell us who they are, what platform or platforms they're on, and why they're following.
Yeah, about myself or about somebody that
First,
I
first,
like.
first somebody else, first an all-star, and then we'll love to figure out where to find you as well.
Yeah, as a Broncos fan, I would like to say the Broncos, but it's really I like the Chargers and what they've done over the last 1 to 2 years. I interviewed for the job a couple years ago, didn't get it, but like I think Megan
Megan
Julian,
Julian.
or I forgot
Yeah.
the last name, but she's done a great job. I think they get good player content. They do funny meme content and fun stuff,
Mhm.
and they engage the audience really well, and they don't mind having a fun voice, a cool voice with it. I think too. So I think they've done a good job with it, and
Oh yeah.
I didn't honestly, I didn't know if they would do a good job years ago because the ownership is a little bit stringent in ways that I've heard in the past, but they've let them like have fly their wings, and I think the Chargers have really turned into one of the top teams in social media. And
Oh
then
yeah.
myself, you can find me A. Siegel Eisman, which is my birth name. I go by Aaron Eisman more now, but like A. Siegel Eisman on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Aaron SE 503 on TikTok. But
Mhm.
if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I think follow me, add me on LinkedIn, and then follow my company page as well, Eisman Digital. So Eisman Digital, Eisman Digital. You can follow us anywhere on all social media platforms. I think we're going to get a YouTube here shortly. So we're doing
Nice.
a lot of cool things. But yeah, I love using LinkedIn, like I talked about earlier, and I think it's really beneficial to a lot of people.
He is a great follow on LinkedIn. I will definitely recommend that and just follow what Aaron's doing. He's doing great things in this industry, helping so many clients and doing cool stuff with his book as well. Aaron, cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast today and sharing us some of your knowledge and wisdom and expertise and insight.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Neil. I appreciate it.
Just a great time today, being able to spend some time with Aaron of Eisman Digital Consulting. Really enjoyed just picking his brain, geeking out, having fun talking about frameworks and strategy and metrics and content and all that good stuff. And really cool to hear about his book as well. Check it out if you're looking for a good book to read or listen to about sports social media. The Evolution of Sports Social Media by Aaron Eisman. You can find it on Amazon. And of course, check out Aaron across his platforms and continue to follow along and learn with him. But that'll do it for this episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. Thanks again for listening. As always, I'm your host, Neil Horwitz. You can find me on Twitter, NJH287, also on LinkedIn, where I post more content. You can find also more content on dsmsports.net, as well as every episode. And you can also find the podcast, subscribe, follow along, engage on your preferred podcast platform, including YouTube now. Until next time, this is Neil Horwitz signing off for the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast.